frequencies are very high in the spectrum. But if you can imagine back in the early 1980s, when they first designed and launched these systems into orbit, those were very high frequencies. They're not very high frequencies now, and there's a lot of commercial equipment that can measure these. But in the early 80s, no one had equipment that could measure and surveil these types of frequencies except for government aid.
To its own citizens, are they doing it to enemies? Is that why it was developed, or was it developed specifically for us?
More than 60 countries that have sent us emails from individuals saying they're also being attacked in these similar methods that we've described.
How do you assess that these people are well in the head? Like obviously you know that this exists, but these people, like you said, their family members have turned against them. So
Dr. John Hall provided an excellent reference, and he's a friend of mine. All these different lithium and Prozac and all these different drugs that they try on, there is not a single drug that has been found to stop the symptoms, not even one. So this is the first case, three main complaints, I should say, and there are lots of secondary. The first one is the gang stalking. You know, when you're being bullied at work or on the street or by your neighbors and constantly harassed and monitored. We get through a group that's called Citizen Corps, and many of them work for the fire department or the police department. And where he was living, the fire trucks, the ambulance, every time they drive in front of his house, they'd honk the horn repeatedly. So it was coordinated, it was organized, it was deliberately done by fire department, police department, ambulance, first responders. We're all told, when you drive past his house, honk the horn. And he's got it on video. Just time after time after time, they drive in loud horns right in front of his house. So it was a coordinated harassment campaign, and he's got it all on video. It's very obvious. So he's currently dealing with a court case and hoping to bring some of this out. We have examples of more than 200 court cases on our website. Unfortunately, none of those have been successful. So one of our main efforts here is to develop a class action lawsuit to raise awareness and to try to prosecute those that are responsible. So that was a segue. So there's the gang stalking, there's the directed energy weapons that I've just described, and there's another thing that's very debilitating to approximately 2/3 of the targeted individual community, and it's called voice to skull, or V2K. This is a technology that was actually developed in the early 1960s by a scientist by the name of Dr. Alan Fry, and it's called the Fry effect. And they can literally take this microwave beam and point it anywhere on your skull, and you will be the only one that will hear the voices that come through it. So you stand there and say, there's somebody cussing me out and calling me horrible names 24 hours a day. You cannot switch it off. There's no firewall for your mind. And the technology is very real. They're using the same technology on every U.S. citizen as a subliminal message. It is broadcast from cell towers 24 hours a day. Very disturbing. And a federal judge has already ruled that subliminal messaging is illegal because it's an invasion of privacy. Yet we still have not convinced enough of the public that this is real, that everyone in the United States is technically a targeted individual. Your location is being tracked very precisely, and they're beaming messages at your head subliminally 24 hours a day. And there was a scientist by the name of Dr. Ross Adey, A-D-E-Y. You can look him up. He worked for the CIA many years ago, back in the 1950s and 1960s. There's a class action lawsuit in Canada right now that involves this man because he could turn anyone into a serial killer. So very disturbing. But no, So by 1954, we have the declassified files from 1954 from the CIA. They perfected mind control in 1954. This was before John F. Kennedy was murdered, before Robert F. Kennedy was murdered, or Martin Luther King. They had perfected the ability to mind control anyone and turn them into a killer. There's approximately 30 in orbit at any given time, and they cover the entire planet by doing unique rotations with a group of satellites. They can cover, there are always at least 4 satellites that can see the top back part of your head. So these are approximately 12,000 nautical miles above the surface of the earth. And so based on that, and they move at a very slow pace. There's a website called inthesky.org, and it's got hyphens in between the words. Okay. And it'll give you a map of all the GPS satellites that are currently over your head right now. And you can see that there's always at least 4 that can see the top of your head anywhere in the world. So you cannot hide from these satellites.
Okay, so you can't. So is there anything you can do to shield yourself from the messaging? I mean, you always have to hear about the people in their tinfoil hats, but is there anything you can wear? Or if this is going on that prevalent, somebody must have thought of a way to shield themselves if they knew this since back decades ago. Is there a way to shield yourself?
We have tried, unfortunately. I consider myself a scientist and a mathematician, and I have a master's degree in engineering from Stanford University. I previously worked at NASA, so I know a great deal about certain types of technology, particularly aerospace technology. We have tried shielding using many different materials. I've constructed many different boxes and measured the signals inside and out. Unfortunately, the scalar beam is very unique because it doesn't operate like a sine wave, like most your radio frequencies, TV frequencies, microwaves generally are a sine wave. Yeah. A scalar wave vibrates in the direction of motion, and that direction of motion is like a very thin silk wire. If you can imagine one that is so fine and so small, it can literally penetrate an atom and never touch anything in the atom. Tesla once said that the scalar waves he was experimenting with could go through the entire Earth and never touch anything.
Wow.
That's how you cannot imagine.
Awesome. Wow.
How fine a simple scalar wave can be. And so it can easily penetrate any type of shielding you put up. The problem that makes it so painful initially when you're targeted, the first few months are what they call the break-in period, and it's designed to soften up the target. Now, this is words that if you go to our gang stalking tab on our website, we actually have the training manual that is used to teach agents and operatives how to gang stalk and harass somebody. And one of the mentions in that training manual is how the first few months they like to terrify, traumatize to the maximum extent possible to neutralize this person and get them to lay down and shut up. And on many people, it's very effective. The microwave beams can be extremely painful. I'm talking about on the ground in a fetal position, screaming in pain, and there's no way to hide from the scalar beam. What it does is it drags like a boat wake. It drags ionized particles through the atmosphere, and that's what actually causes the pain. The scalar wave goes right through your body, but the particles that it drags along with it, charged particles in the atmosphere, impact your head and will penetrate to certain depths and are extremely painful. So I've got a diagram on the website under the section called scalar weapons. But this is what causes so much pain. And if I encourage folks to look at the tab called microwave burns. We've got dozens of pictures of people that are burned all over their body. And the pictures are disturbing. I caution you, but these come from satellites and cell towers.
Called the Frey effect. The Army had it on their website called V2K, and that's how a lot of people refer to it, that can pipe voices into someone's head. You can't plug your ears. It vibrates the brain, which is like many concussions, through the small pulses that expand the tissue and then contracts it, then goes to the inner ear where they can hear it. If you just turn that up, causes brain damage. You're heating the brain. So there are a lot of ways and